Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out.
Welcome back, SportsRanter Nation. Happy Halloween weekend. We are your hosts, Jake, Nico, and Drew. Hulk or Werewolf or whatever it is. But anyways, my gosh, we are halfway through the season here with fantasy football. And Jake, I was inspired earlier with your tread. It has been a tough season. It's always going to come down to the last game. And so right now is the nitty gritty. Right now we got to get down to the truth. You know what your team is, but you still have a chance. Halfway through this season, what's going on through your mind, Jake? I want to pass it on to you. It's close on all leagues. We're going to pull up our league standings here in a second. But my gosh, man, now this time is to trade. There's trades going on in the main league in NFL, so that means you got to make trades in your fantasy league. So, what what are you gonna do?
Trades are big now. Like, I mean, you know who people are. You know your roster. Like, there's no holding on to like draft day, draft prices and things like that. You got to look at it realistically. I had a trade in one of my leagues. None of you guys were involved in it, but the Mark Andrews owner also had Kate Otten. Kate Otten's, obviously been a lot more producive now that Evans is going to be out for a while. Godwin's out for the year. He ended up trading away Mark Andrews because he needed running backs, but he traded away Mark Andrews for Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving is not a sexy name, and it's not. And you look at those two, and you're like, that's too lopsided or whatever, but. Bucky Irving in his last 4 games, he's 14 catches for 14 targets, and they're just going to use him more and more. He's a good pass catcher. I know they got Rachaad White there, but that fantasy player recognized what he had and recognized what he needed and wasn't afraid to make that trade. Whereas a lot of people just on namesake alone would say, no way, I'm not trading Mark Andrews for that, but nobody else would pay anything more for him. So, but I mean, I've been looking at the standings and the points scored and against in all my leagues, and injuries are nobody's getting away from injuries. Just stick with it. Keep paying attention. I will say this, in our league, Nick's league, I'm telling you, streaming the right defense and the right kicker could seriously this year more than ever make or break, between a win and a loss. So be paying attention to those matchups, be paying attention to things that are happening on who's starting, who's hurt, and find those matchups and stream those defenses, because those points, I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of close games, it can go either way, with just a difference in one or two positions started. So, but yeah, I mean, waiver wire, we know what's there, and, you got to keep paying attention to the matchup situations, and then try and make some trades and help your roster out that way.
Yeah, man. Like I said, but speaking of trades, there's been interesting trades. Deontay Johnson has been traded to the Ravens, and I know a lot of people have stock interest with Derrick Henry and that offense, and so I wanted to talk to you, Nick, about that. You have Derrick Henry. I don't know if that's going to affect that offense or if it, in fact, make it better, because we saw some things this weekend with the Ravens offense that is a little suspect, so I'm not surprised they made a move. I'm a little upset that it's Deontay Johnson and the Panthers are highlighted as the most embarrassing fucking team in the NFL again. Okay, but Nick, what does this do for the Ravens fantasy-wise?
Well, hopefully it helps. I mean, Lamar is already the number 1 quarterback in the league, not only for his arm, but obviously for his leg. So, I mean, he's going to stand pat where he's at. I just think they need that bigger receiver. Obviously, they got the tight ends as a big body, but they're not very fast. Deontay's tall, a bigger guy and has some speed. Zay Flowers is a smaller, quick dude. So, you always want those different type of receivers. I think it's a really good pickup actually for them. And unfortunately, when they, they're not looking at the division or how are we going to beat the Chiefs, more than likely they're gonna have to, be able to score against them. And every time they've gone up against the Chiefs, Lamar's kind of struggled. Um, I just even last game, I think they gave him 11 carries. I think like Derrick Henry. Like I don't understand why the Ravens do that on some games. Like why they just get away from the run. Um, they're the number one rushing team, so I can't fault them too much. But like those games where they lose by one score and they don't run the ball at all, like the game's not out of hand. Is I get if you're down 21, but last year in the playoffs, same thing with the Chiefs. Like they were in that entire game, they weren't getting blown out, and like they just don't run the ball. I don't know what happens. I don't know the philosophy behind that. It's just weird, and then they end up losing the game, and you go look back, and Derrick Henry's got 11 touches. Like just like he did the other day. Like on touch 17, 18, he's going to break that 80-yard run. You got to let him pound the defense, pound the defense, pound the defense, and then he's going to break one out for you. And not only that, it's time of possession. It's keeping your defense because their defense is not that solid anymore. So keeping the defense off the field, all that stuff. So it's just a weird game. Again, I don't know why they do it from time to time. Hopefully they don't do it against the Chiefs again. They need to run the ball when they meet up because they will meet up in the playoffs. But I think the trade's great. They gave up a fifth round pick. Like I don't know. I think that's well worth it to get that different type of receiver that they need.
Yeah, like I said, we'll keep our eye on it and we'll see. Drew, I know you got your hands full there, but we're gonna pass along if you got a moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're halfway through the season, and both leagues were hanging in there. I just had the standings up there. We're still hanging in there, top me and Nick, and I know it's the last 2 weeks has changed drastically, not only fantasy wise in our standings, but also in the league. I think just the way the AFC picture is looking, the NFC picture is looking, and so. But as a fantasy wise and as a manager, halfway through the season, with things happening around the league with trades, and barely hanging in there with what's happening in our standings. What's on your mind? What are you doing right now? How can we help our viewers make a run and to, like I said, keep fighting, right, Jake? To keep fight, all the way to the end.
Yeah, man, it's tough because you have a roster where you think it's pretty stacked, and then you get into a couple injuries, you get a couple trades that go the wrong way in your favor. I mean, for me, it's like I really like Jordan Mason. I thought Jordan Mason was going to be a staple until McCaffrey was back, and then the AC joints, and in general, he just hasn't been what he was. I think maybe some film came out. In general, like the 49ers offense has kind of been struggling a little bit. So they're bringing major heat. They're bringing major heat all the time. Anytime Brock Purdy's in shotgun, and it's just the Niners offense is kind of becoming predictable. I feel like, and so it's making it tough for Jordan Mason to get going. And so when Isaac Guerendo's in, it's a different look. It's a different running back. He's more of like where Mason's more of a up the middle. Guerendo wants to bounce it out a lot, and so using Trent Williams and George Kittle, Guerendo's looking a lot better as far as just outside run scheme, zone stuff that we normally do. So for me, it kills me. I mean, I'm already thin at running back as it is. Jordan Mason's not producing, and so now it's like I'm really reliant on a touchdown-dependent style running back where it's Brian Robinson. Like if Brian Robinson doesn't find the end zone, which he was doing when I was on 3-0 run, it was fantastic. And so it's like Jake said, you're finding out who's who. I mean, you're finding out what's what, and it's tough. Like Breece Hall, he hasn't been what he's expected to be, and I have him in both leagues, and it's just like that's killing me. And it's like every time I pick a quarterback, the other one does better, and it's driving me insane. Like Jordan Love, I played him instead of Kyler Murray, and it's like, oh, Jordan Love left, and Jordan Love's gonna be out for a couple weeks. So it's
I told
hard.
you to drop him. You
would have. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's still either way. He's still gonna be a top 10 quarterback. So
no, he's not.
He probably will. But anyways, so it's just one of those things where it's hard to manage. You just gotta try to make a trade, swing whatever position you feel like you're the most comfortable at. Make a swing trade for to get better at the position that you're least comfortable at. So for me, I'm gonna try to trade some receivers and try to hopefully get a running back where I can stabilize the lineup a little bit better.
No, it is tough. I sat through before the show earlier, was kind of looking through my trade scenarios to try to get better, particularly in your league, Jake, where I'm 3-5, but I'm in the higher half of points for. I'm just not, like I said, I'm just struggling to get wins. And I'm looking at my team. I have a solid, 1, 2, 3 punch with Kyrie Williams, Justin Jefferson, and Chuba Hubbard that are consistent. But I'm that Sam Laporta is still killing me. Like I need that, and so it's in the end in this league, it's not good enough.
I think what people need to do, like I've noticed this in both my league and Nick's league, there's just not a lot of trades every year, and I don't know if it's the platform that we use, where people can't like kind of put players on the block, but I think people need to do. I think people need to do this. I think they need to stay away from this idea that if I'm going to trade away a guy like a Sam Laporta or like I have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's just not doing it for me this year yet. Like, rather than think like I got to get two guys for those players or whatever. Like, I got a guy like Debo right now. Like, there needs to be a way to advertise to the league like this guy is up for grabs. You need to let the league come to you in when they know that these players are on the trade block, rather than you going, God, I don't really like Devo, but I don't want to give him up for the like put it out on the text thread like, hey, Devo's on the trade block, like, send me your offers. Let the league know, and then see where people are at. That kind of gets you a market price on what people think, rather than you trying to go after and because you're going to have in your head you want more than he's probably really worth. But use the platforms that we have, our text threads and things like that. People out there watching, whatever league you're in, put it out in the open that, hey, I'm shopping this guy, and let the offers come to you so you can kind of get a market price.
Well, go ahead. Nick.
I try to do that when I had 3 tight ends and it still didn't work. So
Dude, there's some donkeys in leagues that just don't check their trades, and it drives me absolutely through the wall. Like I know my perception and my reputation is I throw donkey trades out. I get it.
You do.
I do. But I will say I expect a counter every once in a while. Like I get it if it's
right.
And a lot of times for me, it's not they're not egregious trades. Are they in my favor a little bit? Of course. But if you counter me, I'm not going to be like, oh, shut
Jordan
it down.
Mason for Devon A. Chain.
Yeah.
After I've waited the whole season for Tua to get healthy.
Hey, we had the truck on the show.
We did before the injury. But guys,
it almost happened.
But guys, what we're talking about here though is giving our viewers an advantage in their leagues, and we're saying go out and make those trades. Donkeys that sit in the league and don't make trades, they don't have the advantage. They're going to suffer injuries, rely on the waiver wire, and yes, guys may get lucky, whatever the case may be, but it's the guys that are out actively in the hunt, looking at these trades. Those are the guys that, that are trying to win this thing, but they're going to be the ones that ultimately have an edge over the guys that are just sitting idle,
Well, to say that, obviously in our leagues there are some donkeys or whatever, but we're all competitive. So that's why it's so hard to find that deal, because we want to come. Even our viewer here, Seth, is telling us how much trades he's putting out, but everyone's denying it because it's hard to, like today, it's hard to vouch or sell yourself on, am I really making my team better? Because it's just the way it is this year. Am I really helping the guy out? Am I really helping myself out? It's hard to make that case this year because there's just too many holes to fill. So like I said, we got to get on our grit. We got to pay attention, and we got to just get on this waiver wire. So is there anything that we can hit, Nick? Is there anything that's hitting it, screaming at you this week that you can do, whether it be a spot play or some type of strategy or some fab? What can you do this week to help yourself off the waiver wire?
So I think, and I don't really say this much, but I think you really got to look at week 12 and 13. There's 6 teams on a bye each of those weeks. They're calling them bye-mageddons.
Wow.
you got to get on that early. I know we're still week 8, but look ahead. Look
I
where
agree.
these bye weeks are coming. I think there's 6 teams on each those weeks. I think 4 on week 11. I know those are a few weeks away, but if you wait till week 10, that guy's not there no more. That's where the research and the strategy comes in. Look at some of your players that if you have whatever 3 bears or whatever it is, and you're going to need a replacement. You got 4 people on bye, and you're on that tinkering, right, Ben? You're trying to make a push. You can't have 4 or 5 guys on a bye and think you're going to win that week, right? So, and trying to make that move the week before is going to be tough. So, try to see if there's a third a third receiver out there, that you can get, on the waiver wire or something like that from, Roma Dunce is available in a lot of leagues. You know what I mean? Like Keenan Allen's not doing too good. Like just guys like that could potentially go off. I know he hasn't done much, but you want somebody that plays, who's a starter, and you're just hoping, you know, he'll go off the week you play him when you got 6 other people on a bye, instead of taking zeros, because we know we don't want to take zeros, right, Andrew? So make sure you get enough depth going into those bye weeks and looking ahead. As far as the waiver wire, I mean, it's tough. I'll let Jake and Andrew look on it. Like I got what I'm looking like. Just like I got Baker against the Chiefs this week. Even though Baker's a number 2 quarterback, like I'm probably gonna be looking to replace him for this week. Like I don't want to start anybody against Chiefs. Like I think that's just dumb. So things like that, like those are your things you want to do in advantage. Look at matchups, look at all that. So I'm gonna go pick up a waiver wire quarterback for this week and see if he can outperform Baker, even though Baker's the number 2 quarterback in fantasy. Like you can't be afraid to sit some of your studs. You gotta sit Devontae Adams, guys. The Jets suck. You gotta do things like that. It's hard to do. Trust me, I have them. But sometimes you got to do that moving forward, and that's gonna benefit you in the long run.
I hear you. I have Devonte Adams in a league where I just lost Stephon Diggs, and so it's like, and my guys aren't really coming through on the bench. Actually, it's our league. I lost Stephon Diggs in our league. I have Devonte Adams. Hopefully, it comes through some
Well, if you ain't got anybody else, then it is what it is.
garbage time. Hopefully, but like I said, so Drew, I said waiver wire. What exactly can we do right now, specifically at this time of the season, to help yourself out?
I mean, it's a common theme. I've been saying it for a lot of the show. Look to see who was on a bye week last week. Who's coming back? You know, right now, I mean, you said it. Panthers just traded away Deontay Johnson, right? Who's coming back off injury? Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's coming back. He was a 1,000-yard receiver last year. He's available in 80% of leagues most of the time. And that Xavier Legette guy that we thought wasn't going to be that good, guess what? He's going to be good. Like I said, the whole year, he's going to be a good receiver. So he's going to start getting his targets if you're able to get him. I know he's starting to get available, well, not as much available in leagues, but he's somebody that's a trade target that you want to go get. You know what I mean? Like, he's somebody that's like, yeah, you can. He's starting to sneak in there a little bit. These rookie receivers, if you can go trade for him, you go trade for him. Keon Coleman, he's starting to get hot. Like, rookie receivers start coming along right around this time of the year. So, another guy who I kind of like, Darius Slayton. I know the Giants aren't that great on offense or whatever, but Darius Slayton does get some targets there. Showed out decently yesterday. Something to keep an eye on. They got Malik Neighbors, and that's about all they have. And so there are going to be some other people in there that are getting some sort of value, and Darius Slayton's one of those guys. Other than that, I mean, it's kind of rough. I mean, I'm looking in our league. Rico Dowdle's available. I mean, in our league. Carson Steele, I mean, he's there. I don't know. I mean, you can try and take a flyer on these guys. It's all about, at this point, adding depth to your starters in case they get hurt. Make sure you get that depth piece in there and start looking forward towards, like Nick said, try to get those bye weeks, trying to get those fill-in guys that that's going to be beneficial down the road. quarterback play is a big thing, but other than that, man, it's kind of really tough for like running backs, receiver wise. You just gotta see who's coming back from injuries and see who's coming back from bye weeks.
Jake, are there any trends that are helping you through the waiver wire throughout this tough season in all these leagues? Has there any trends that you've been sticking with that has been kind of helping you out to help our viewers?
I have had a few. I've had success in multiple leagues with some of my waiver wire pickups this year. But like, you got to temper expectations too. Like, you lose Isaiah Pacheco. Like, I got Tank Bigsby off waivers. Like, he's not gonna. You got to temper expectations. If I'm looking for a running back, I typically like to find a guy that can fall in to the end zone, a goal line back, somebody that can get up, get a touchdown. Um, as much as I hate it, and I think somebody picked him up actually earlier today. But a guy like Zeke, like that guy, he's not going to get many touches a game or whatever, but he's got a high probability if they get to the inside the 5 to score a touchdown. Roshan Johnson's another one. A guy that sticks out to me, running backs in our league with Nick, Kendre Miller is questionable, should be healthy. Reports all offseason where they really like the guy. Kamara's older, can't carry the workload through the entire season. That might be a stash play. But as far as like receivers go, which is in a full point PPR, I value a lot more. You want to stock up on those. I do think if you have an area to stash somebody, Roma Dunze, I do think that he's going to get more involved. Rookies typically take a little bit longer in the rookie season to kind of start integrating into the system. Adam Thielen was a great suggestion there. But just go look every single one of them. Who's getting targets? Who's getting targets? Who's getting targets? Who's getting targets? Those are the guys. If the more opportunities, the better the chances of having a good week. If they're not getting targets, then it's really hard to predict what they're gonna do.
Excellent. It may be too late for this tip that I'm giving, but one thing that I have done a couple weeks ago that panned out is normally I'm kind of streaming my kicker, my defense, and my quarterback. But one thing that I do is I try to compare. I go to the scoring leaders list and I compare my team with who is available on the top scoring list. Does that make sense? So you can see who's available. And so what I did a few weeks ago is I could see that, I'm streaming these kickers, but who's there the whole time available on the waiver wire was a top kicker in Austin Siebert. And so what I did was I picked him up, and since then he's been giving me double digits like 3 weeks in a row. And so the point is yes, I'm streaming and I'm doing that weekly, but sometimes you just aren't, after all these things, you're not seeing that with that edge. Maybe it gave me an edge or not, but these games were close. This week I beat Jake by 9 points. I lost to Alex Rivera by 9 points. It's so close every week that you got to give yourself an edge. And so it may be too late, but we're halfway through the season. But if you're streaming these guys, look to see if these top scoring leaders, defenses, tight ends, kickers, if they're in the top 10 up there, you should pick them up and drop your guy you're hanging on to that you drafted or whatever.
In my league, I picked up Chris Boswell like 2 weeks ago, and I think he's like the number one kicker, like fantasy points scored now, and he was on waivers. Like sometimes when you're a kicker or whatever, or people's defenses have a bye, no matter how good they are, like they have to drop, to get somebody else. So yeah, that's a great point, Ben.
And it's unfortunate. Sometimes these kickers and defense are putting up double-digit points, so it can give you the chance, especially if you're struggling with these injuries and all these stuff. It's just the truth. Sometimes these defenses and kickers just give you that win. I will always hate Graham fucking Gano. All right. I guess Nick is muted here or whatever. So I want to talk about this with you guys. We're in the middle of week 8. If there's anything else that we haven't covered for fantasy football, please make sure you fit that in there. But I got to go ahead and talk about this. I'm kind of waiting to see what's going to happen after tomorrow. The Panthers are resting today on Tuesdays. But I almost feel like they're going to announce a Bryce Young start again and go down this old route. I don't know what they're going to do. But I want to know what you guys think. I'm so happy for the New York Jets because it makes me feel like they are the worst organization in the league, and the way that they do things with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams or whatnot. So I just kind of wanted to get you guys' opinion. What do you guys think? Who's really more of a shy fucking organization right now? The Carolina Panthers or the New York Jets? Let's start off with you, Nick.
100% the Jets. 100%.
Okay.
And Ben, I gotta give you props. You know, I toot my horn quite a bit. You first guessed this before last year. You said this experiment with Aaron Rodgers was not gonna work. Then he got hurt, so it was like we don't know if it was true or not. So then this year comes around, and I as much as I don't like Aaron Rodgers as a person, as a leader, and all that stuff, like I still thought it was gonna work just because of the talent. I thought he still had some talent. But I also didn't think the Jets were going to bend over backwards and take it from Aaron Rodgers. Like, I really did not think they were going to do that. I get, you know, Tom Brady and those types of quarterbacks have a little bit of, but Tom Brady had 6 rings when he went to Tampa. Aaron Rodgers had 1. And bringing all his buddies and all, like, he's just a cancer. I think Jake said in the text message. It's perfect. He doesn't know how to lead. Nobody wants to play for him. And you just mortgaged everything. Like, I don't think, you know, they don't have all their draft picks. They already gave some away for Devontae. I'm sure they gave away others. Their salary cap is not in the best condition. I don't know if it's hell. You still have a 40-year-old quarterback under contract that's no good anymore. And you fired your coach, which I still thought he was a good coach. We had that conversation. I didn't think it was Robert Saleh's fault. I think he had some bad luck with, you know, drafting Zach Wilson. And, you know, everybody drafts a quarterback. And if they pan out, you're a genius. If they don't, you know, it's all your fault. But, you know, his part of the ball was doing great. Now that defense isn't even playing that great anymore ever since he left. So, I don't know. The expectations for what the Jets had, I think make the situation way worse. And at least the Panthers are young in a way, first year head coach. You got things looking up. Bryce Young does hamper it a little bit. He didn't make that jump. I don't know if he's ever going to, but you know that kind of does suck. But I'd rather be a Panthers fan than a Jets fan right now.
Wow, that's a bold statement. Who wants to go next, Jake or Drew? Jake,
I'll go.
Ahead.
It's a tough question because like when the Jets brought in Aaron Rodgers, and remember he missed a whole last year, came out of Green Bay and all that stuff. Like I don't know, it was tough to say like at the time that we knew he was a cancer, that we knew the team, you know, wasn't behind him or whatever. Because I mean, they'd won a lot of great games. Green Bay's had a lot of success, whatever. Like I don't fault the Jets for bringing him in and saying, hey, look, we have these studs. We have this Breece Hall. We have Garrett Wilson. Like we have this stud defense. Like we want to win now, and we're bringing in the best guy that we think who is available to do it. Like, I mean, at the time, how are we supposed to know that it wasn't going to work? Like it worked in Tampa with Tom Brady. Everyone thought Tom Brady was washed. Patriots were terrible. He goes down there, and he's great. Now we know kind of moving forward. At the time, we don't really know. Now we know, yeah, his leadership sucks. He's not in it. You know, I mean, I don't know how much the injury affected him, what it took out of him or whatever, but I don't fault the Jets organization for taking the steps that they took to get to this point. It just hasn't worked. It's worked in the past for other teams. Like it has worked, but Aaron Rodgers wasn't the guy to do it. I don't think they could have predicted that, you know, albeit, but as far as like the worst franchise, like, yeah, I would still say it's the Jets. They can't draft. Something is dysfunctional in that front office. They can't put it together. You know, the Panthers, it's like they're a young team and they just, you know, I know that the owner keeps just going through coaches and coaches and coaches. I just wish more like, and I'm going to kind of generalize here and get off a little bit, but seeing Jameis Winston go out this week with the Cleveland Browns and beat, you know, the Ravens, I just wish more teams that were in the rebuild, like were in the, we need to start over and all this and that. Like Jameis Winston could quarterback better than probably half the quarterbacks in this league right now. They'd probably win more. Same thing with Flacco, and we're going to see real soon. I wish teams would build kind of like the Seahawks, build a team around and get like a veteran in there, or the Vikings this year. Like there are some good veterans out there that are better than like some of these backups and some of these guys that these franchises go to. Like, I don't know, why not wait a few years to draft a quarterback and build your team like up, like the scheme, what you want, like your line and all this and that. Like the Lions, for example. The Lions put in Jared Goff is nothing special. And you can plug in a lot of quarterbacks to run that system. But they built a team around him. They gave him time to learn it, adapt, and become good at it. And now he's thriving. Could you put Justin Herbert in that system? Yeah, of course. Justin Herbert is probably a lot, more of a skilled quarterback. But who's having the success? It's Jared Goff. So it's just, I don't know, they drafted Bryce Young and all that, but just the parts aren't there around it. And he'll probably have another offensive coach next year, another head coach after that, whatever. And it's just, I feel like it's going to be one of those guys like we never get to see their true talent because the franchise, I feel like franchises build teams in the wrong way when they want to start over. So, the Panthers, it's just I think both franchises, the Jets and the Panthers, are make their mistakes. They're just in different ways, I guess.
That's what I'm afraid of, Jake. Drew.
Well, Jake kind of hit on what I was going to say. Is I know we were talking about the Jets and Panthers, but I mean, dude, the Browns are an absolute fucking shambler. They're such a horrible franchise. It's
all right.
But Drew, but last year Joe Flacco led them. They were dominant into the playoffs. They have a great group of talent on the field, but it's just the franchise that makes this mistake with Deshaun Watson. But it's like Jameis Winston should have been starting from the beginning of the year.
Well, sure. But so here's my point, Jake, where I'm not saying you're wrong with your take, because I get what you're saying. But the thing is these quarterbacks that you're talking about, they show who they are. Sam Darnold is starting to show who he is. The Vikings are starting to fall off the map. They're going to fall off the map. They're not going to be I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, obviously we already know the Detroit Lions are going to take that division. I think we all know that. Are they going to even make the wild card? I honestly don't think they will. I think they're going to fall off. Yes.
Wow.
I think they're going to fall off. And so and then Joe Flacco, yeah, is he putting up numbers? Sure. Are they getting wins? And they're I don't know. Let's see. And then the other teams, Jameis Winston's fantastic for fantasy football, but he sucks. He's going to get one highlight win. He's going to get one highlight win, and they're going to suck.
Okay.
Jameis Winston's going to go out, throw 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions and get 400 yards. Okay. It's amazing for fantasy football. Pick him up on the waiver wire. But he's not a guy that's going to go in there and give your team, relevance.
Yeah, okay, but what you're saying, though, is not from a fantasy football, but from an NFL franchise perspective, then, who are you going to go out with, and get more wins? Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco this year? I don't care. Just who this year, who would you get more wins with?
Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco.
Sure.
Okay. You're saying then that they shouldn't play Flacco. They need to play Richardson because Flacco, we know who he is. You're saying essentially that a franchise has 2 options. You are either the bottom of the barrel and you are going to change it all around in one draft, or you go win the Super Bowl. What I'm saying is, why not get a competent quarterback that can win 7 or 8 games to keep at least have a fan base, at least keep people interested? Because what you're doing is you're doing things to guys like Zach Wilson and some of these guys, or I'm sorry, Garrett Wilson, where you're throwing in these bums that Devontae Adams. What did he do the minute their quarterback situation went to shit? He gave up. He ran. That's it. That happens with every athlete. What I'm saying is build a team around a guy who we know who he is. He's not going to win a Super Bowl, but at least he can get you 7 or 8 wins. At least he can keep you competitive where your team's not getting blown out every year. like you look at the leadership of Jameis Winston over Deshaun Watson, and it's like those guys played for him. They didn't play for Deshaun Watson. So yes, the Browns were not going to be a Super Bowl contender with either quarterback, but give them somebody, at least have somebody that can win 7 or 8 games and
You can't
keep
swallow that money, though. You can't swallow that money. He's handcuffed. And I actually like the Browns coach. I think he's a good coach. But his cap hit in 2 years, his dead money cap is 90 million.
Okay,
In 2 years. In
I
2 years.
understand that Deshaun Watson.
So look, I tell this all the time, and I'm being a Raider fan. I'm gonna talk to this. I got told for years, you guys need to get rid of Derek Carr. You guys need to get rid of Derek Carr. You guys need to get rid of Derek Carr. My answer to them always was, and replace him with who?
Right. I agree.
The answer is always, you need to get rid of your quarterback and replace him with who?
Dude,
Okay?
would you not?
Hold on.
Would you not want to have Bo Nix instead of Derek Carr right now?
I'd rather have Penix, but the fucking Falcons snaked them. But no, so I don't want to talk about the Raiders too much. Josh McDaniels fucked up the whole thing because when he came to the team, we had Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, and Hunter Renfrow with like our offensive studs. And obviously, all that, I just named 5 guys that are not even on our team and completely irrelevant who were studs when McDaniels came in. So I was completely wrong on him too. But what I'm trying to say is we actually have talent on this team and we don't have a quarterback. And so I just don't think you need to replace a guy. So every situation is different. That was a Raiders situation. For the Colts, you started him last year, Jake. Like, you already made that decision. You can't come into year 2 and say, okay, Joe Flacco is a starter now when you drafted this franchise guy and he's supposed to be a franchise quarterback. Now, I first tested this after week 1 when I told Ben he was what did we do? He was a fraud. Remember, after week 1, he had 34 points. I said Anthony Richardson is a fraud. Get rid of him, and it came to flourishing.
2 years in a row.
But what you're saying is exactly my point. Is you said coming into this, you started him last year, so coming in this year, you're making the decision that he's your franchise quarterback. The guy completed like 12 passes through the first 3 games. He doesn't have to be your franchise quarterback today. He can be the franchises need to understand. You either are going to say, this is our franchise quarterback, and we're going to invest regardless of our record or how good or bad he does it's for the next 4 years, and we're going to build a team around him, the coaching staff, and we're going to build around him, or we're going to let him sit like Jordan Love, and we're going to build the pieces, the O-line, our receivers, and this, and he's going to integrate into that. But you can't have, when Anthony Richardson comes out and he had he got hurt last year. How many games did he play? He hardly played at all. The decision to go out and say he's our franchise quarterback this year, and then he goes out and completes 12 passes in 3 games. It's like he's not even keeping you competitive to where you have Michael Pittman, you have Jonathan Taylor, you have all these studs that you've invested draft capital, millions of dollars that are like, this is hopeless. I want out of this. If this
It's
is
too hard though, Jake, because you have guys like Caleb Williams and Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, and you got a lot of guys who come in year 1 are successful.
Jaden Daniels,
CJ Stroud last year. I know they're not all that, but the problem is when you're a coach and you're going to get fired in 2 years if you don't put up wins, you have to put your money on something. And
that's the problem with the franchise.
No, that's a problem with the NFL in general.
Yeah.
That's everybody. There's only like 2 franchises who don't fire the coach, Jake, and that's basically the Steelers.
Well, look.
And why do the Steelers always are competitive and they always have a winning record? Because they have a system and a coaching staff in place that's there every year. And so when players come in, whether it's Russell Wilson or whether it's George Pickens or whoever, it's like, this is our system. It's already in place. Yeah. Every year they need, you know what? The O-line's not great this year. We need to fix that, or a receiving core or whatever. But the foundation is there with all the pieces. They're not completely wiping it out and starting it over and then taking a first-round pick on Bryce Young and saying, okay, you have a year, maybe 2, to change everything. No O-line, you have no receivers, Adam Thielen, great, and nothing else. And then you have 2 years to turn this around to a Super Bowl contender now. It doesn't happen.
Well,
it
look,
happens, but rarely does it happen.
well, we're gonna find out quickly. What makes me nervous, and just for the sake of time, I'm gonna agree with both all of you guys. The Jets and the Browns are worse than the Panthers, but it's hard. But it's hard to see, because what's happening is, okay, they're chopping up, they're going for first round picks, and they're getting all this stuff to rebuild. And then those things don't pan out, and they don't make any sense. For instance, like Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson was traded for Dante Jackson, who's going off right now with the fucking Steelers, okay? And in return, they're only getting back a 5th-round pick. And so it's like they're making all these moves that don't make any sense. At the same time, they have an owner who is coming in and trying to force his way. And what makes me nervous is they did hire a coach in Dave Canales who's building it for the long haul. Building it through the draft. Going with run game and defense. And that's going to take some time. But you got a fucking owner. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, they're building for long term, but the owner doesn't give them the time. And so I'm just worried as a fan. I'm waiting to see what they're going to do. It's a perfect example of what we're talking about. Are they just going to start Bryce Young next week? You're not in the season. Andy Dalton was a good try. You obviously competed better, but now you have your stock in Bryce Young. Do you start him now?
Absolutely.
I think you do. And if you just traded away Deontay Johnson, your number one, your only hope in the offense. And so,
well, here's the thing, dude. That's the beauty of the situation, and that's why I totally understand like what you guys are saying. But it's like, dude, you have to see what you have, and if it sucks, then fucking tank.
How can you see what you have,
and then go get yourself whatever you think you need. The worst need is your left tackle, your edge rushers, and then your quarterbacks. Like, that's how you build your teams. Like, dude, look at the Niners. Look at these good teams. They have great lines. They have solid stuff that you need to have. You need to have edge rushers. You need to have line, and you need to have a fucking quarterback. If you have some average receivers, it's not a big deal.
Let me ask you,
have to have that.
Andrew, let me ask you, put Brock Purdy on the Carolina Panthers. How great are they going to do? How great are they really going to do?
They're going to be probably maybe wild card hunt. Maybe. Like, they're not going to be that. If NFC, dude, that division sucks ass.
What I'm saying is that Sam Darnold's a perfect example. Goes to the Jets. He was just on the Panthers. Okay? Sam Darnold sucks. We know what we got. We know what we got. Now, what is he doing? He's a competent quarterback for the first place Minnesota Vikings. You can't always see what you got if you don't have anything else around the guy. That's what I'm saying. You can't write these guys off. Would the Browns rather have
Bryce Young has decent weapons. Bryce Young has Leggett.
Adam Thielen was their number 1 receiver
last year. Okay, but they have Leggett. Let's go see what you have in a rookie that you just drafted. You have Thielen, you have Chuba Hubbard, who's been great. Like, you're starting to see these people. You're starting to see a formidable offense off of Dave Canales, who's an offensive coordinator and offensive mind, and you're starting to see this offense chug. This is what you want to see. Let Bryce Young go see what he is, see if he's anything decent or not, and if he's not, and you don't feel like he's doing better, then cut bait.
Well, with that being said, with the 5th-round pick, now they have 7 picks, 3 5th-round picks next year in 2025. So the way it looks to me that they have the stock to make another move again if they have to for a new quarterback next fucking year. And here we go again with this damn merry-go-round. So with that said, guys, for the sake of time, I'm sorry I got to cut it short, but that covers
we
it.
need to add 15 minutes on it.
I know, man. It's every time. Hopefully, eventually, soon we'll figure that out to add more time to this podcast. But I love it. Thank you, Seth, for loading up our comments. Thank you to our hosts, Jake, Nico, and Drew, for hosting today and bringing us your insights. But until next time, peace be the journey. One love. See you next week, 6 p.m.
Word.
Later.
See you guys. Yeah, we gotta get talking about these damn refs eventually.
Oh,
dude. So it was last night. The one you saw the penalty where the guy